Welcome to ONV, Respect the Game podcast. Welcome back, everyone. Man, it's been great. It's been great being away, but it's good to be back.
Definitely. I hope y'all enjoyed y'all vacation because it seemed like I ain't seen y'all in a while.
And y'all gonna put me in the timeout chair though. Okay. I see how y'all gonna do me. It's cool.
That's where you supposed to be.
They said you had 2 shows this week.
Hey, we got a great show tonight. We have Traction in the house, and they're gonna bring the message to us today as far as what it's like working with our young people in the community and what the good things that they do outside of our community.
Correct. So let's have you guys introduce yourselves. Your name is?
My name is Dre Muhammad. I'm the founder and CEO of Traction Athletic Performance. Been in that for the last 6 years, going on 6 years. So I'm glad to be here.
And I'm DeMarcus Muhammad. I'm the oldest, one of the oldest Muhammads running around here in the city. But I'm a licensed attorney here in Fort Wayne. I'm also a licensed NFL agent through the National Football League, and I am working with ISC with Roosevelt and Javon Barnes and Austin Parker.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about Traction and how it all came about and how started this whole thing up.
So I don't know if we got enough time for me to speak on how it all came into existence, but I'm going to try to shorten it up as much as possible. So obviously I'm from Fort Wayne, grew up playing with Coach Ayers. He was one of my first basketball coaches, kind of tell you his age a little bit without telling his age. And then obviously played with Coach Foster too as well when I was at Harding. But I grew up an athlete, went through the ranks of athletics. And when I got finished playing football, I joined AWP Sports at the time. And then long story short, I was with them for about 5 years. And then it kind of it went down a little bit. And then Traction was an idea that I wanted to start that was more so outside of the Fort Wayne market. But then when AWP dissolved, I picked up Traction where AWP left off. And that's kind of how we got involved with Traction.
Nice.
And I'm gonna say this. You just said more words today. Man, you talk about progress. Hey, I'm proud of you. Hey, more, man, it's all right.
Yeah, Marcus, and I know you done came a long way with your success where you started at as well.
Mm-hmm. I also grew up. Came up under Coach Ayers, Metro Youth Sports with the Pacers. Me and my brothers played for him. So that was an experience in itself growing up. I also went to Elmhurst High School where I played football. Wasn't so good in football. I mean, we had some athletes, but as you know, Elmhurst wasn't all that great
at that time.
At that time, but we. Played basketball. I was on the state team. Ended up going to Purdue for undergrad, and finished my career with school at Valpo Law School. So basically took all the lessons I learned from all the coaches I had in athletics and life, and kind of applied it to my post high school career as far as my education is concerned, and tried to apply it to life. So
you guys have done a great job, man. As a former coach, I'm very proud of you brothers, how you maintain yourself and how you represent Fort Wayne and doing the things that you guys are doing is just it's a great feeling.
So you say what they're doing, but I'm trying to figure out what are y'all doing at Traction? Do y'all just do football drills, or give me a little more in depth of what y'all actually doing at? Because I'm new to this.
Trying to figure it out. I got you. So at Traction Athletic Performance, it's obviously for me personally, when I got into it, I've always told parents and players that if I just were to train you as an athlete, I wouldn't be interested in training you. And so for me, it's kind of going through that thing as a young man where you go through the ranks of sports and you think that I'm just going. I remember when I was younger, I was like, I'm just going to play in the NBA. Like that was the only thing that was on my mind.
That's every kid.
I didn't think about no character development, no leadership. JJ just said I didn't even talk in high school, so damn near was mute. So I really didn't care too much about anything other than just sports. But obviously, life shows you, and that is a lot more than just playing the game. And so at Traction, one of the things that we try to do is we try to take the bigger picture of life and we try to put it within the sports realm. And so when you come to Traction, yes, you're going to do skill training, you're going to do speed training, you're going to do strength training, but the overall focus is how well can you cultivate your character, your leadership, your integrity through sports. So at Traction, we do hit on all those things that you typically would think of, but the most important thing is obviously building yourself up as a character, as a young man.
Nice. Man, that's deep.
Now, what y'all talk about? Y'all talked about the coaches in your life, which y'all have some good coaches, and we talk about it's a village. Touch on your relationship with your dad, because here's the thing: all y'all guys, I mean, and he been on this very show and talking about how firm he is, and like even when he brought you over to Harding, and like he said, having to step back. But the fact that all you guys are successful. And, persevering. And it's funny. I talk about you don't talk. I remember Marcus, he come up, he going to talk your ear off. But, I mean, hey, we African-American man and a dad, an involved dad, he's always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And
everything that you're talking, and he, stay involved. But just speak to your relationship with your pops.
I'll let the oldest go first.
That's a great move.
Well, I mean, growing up in our household, we all super competitive, very competitive, from the boys to our sisters as well, and obviously our dad is very competitive. We've heard stories, but like growing up in the household, he was present, but at the same time he was out making moves. He had his group home for years, so he was always invested in also not just his children but other children. So that's something that I think was passed down to us. Seeing how he worked with the group home kids, how he was able to balance the group home life to home life, making sure we was involved in sports. Our mom took us to all the sporting events, but my dad made sure we was still involved in that as well. But just growing up, he was very firm, very straight to the point, no nonsense type of individual. And I appreciate that from him. We've bumped heads several times. All of us have bumped heads with our dad because, we got a lot of our dad in us too. But at the same time, we can appreciate him being there because at the end of the day, I'm also, like I said, I'm also an attorney, and I see a lot of things in family court where there's not a lot of there's kids who don't have their dad, who don't have someone in their corner to make sure they're doing what they need to, or someone to even bump heads with to try to help them grow. And I can appreciate that from my dad. And not only that, but seeing him work with kids, and not only him but our Granny Rose was very instrumental in how we came up, because we spent a lot of time with her. And that's my dad's mom, but she had a lot of kids that she took in. So being able to see her interact by herself with 20, 30 kids in her home was something that was I think that's why we able to relate to kids and be able to do what we do. So it just kind of just was passed on to us.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with everything he said. I think obviously as you get older in life, sometimes you don't value things until you look, behind you and kind of see what was. I think from our experience personally with him, obviously, a lot of people know him as Mark Muhammad. I still kind of got visions of Mark Masterson from just when it comes to sports, for sure. Competition, not in a negative way, but I think that you just never it takes you some time to appreciate who's been in your life and whatnot. And oftentimes I have to reflect on my relationship with him, because I have to have somewhat of those same relationships with my two boys that I have now, and kind of look at what went well, what didn't go well, why didn't it go well, what made it go well, and kind of just put that all into existence for my boys. But then also dealing with so many other athletes and people who don't have dads. I can't even tell you the amount of players that I dealt with who don't have father figures in their life. And so even with that being said, I'm often finding myself, when I am doing some with players, introducing my dad, or my dad being around some of those players because of, what he's been able to do for us. I think some of the biggest things that my dad did for me personally was he put me around people who I can relate to. And so, I used to go to Portage, and it probably come up in this conversation with my brothers. They went to Portage and they went to Amherst. And I don't know why they wanted to be at a program such like that. It was such a bad program, but they wanted to stay there.
Say it again.
But my dad wanted me to.
They made the right choice.
But my dad wanted me from Metro basketball.
Yeah.
I always had a black coach in my life, like always. And I can remember like coming through you. Obviously, going through Metro, you're surrounded by black coaches.
Yeah.
When I went to high school, I had the option to go to Amherst with Coach Edmonds, but then I don't think there was a cooler staff than Coach Good and Coach Foster and Coach Bruce. Like, to me, I just think that
JJ Cool.
He used to, him and Coach Bruce, to give me game on what I needed to do to play varsity, because I was just trying to play varsity, but they used to help me out a lot. So being around Nat is when I reflect again, it helps me to look at what I'm doing and saying, if I never had those representation or those people, I don't know if I even be here working with these players like I am, because I wouldn't know what it looks like. And so I think my dad did a lot. Obviously, he's still doing a lot. But I think that was one of the things that when I look at all of the success that God has blessed me to do, there's phases of things that allowed me to get to that point, and him being able to position us and put us in right places, although he had to go out and, and I don't know, you guys know the history. He had a troubling past, and he had to change his life and that course. And I remember vividly seeing him when we were on the south side of town. He moved us all the way out to Northrop, and I remember him studying late at night into the morning hours, trying to change his life, because he had to, he had children that he had to focus on. So it's all of those things that you kind of reflect on that you don't notice and you don't pay attention to when you're young that helps you grow and develop.
Nice.
And I still beat all y'all 1-on-1.
Man, that's I'm glad that Jay brought that up about your dad, man, because we just last week we was all together down in Tampa, and it was a beautiful scenery watching you guys do your thing, and your dad sitting back proud, Paul, watching you guys just handling your business with your young people and your pros and your pros to be. It was just a good feeling, man, and that's why we had our conversation. Tell us something about the work with the high school players and the coaches, and we had that conversation. Like,
He trying to start something.
we just had that
players.
conversation about
Mm-hmm.
why is it being so hard for us as a community to work together to make it happen for our children. Y'all help me with this one.
Yeah, I think it obviously depends on the coach that you got to deal with. I think that there's been some situations that occurred where one of my rules, and I was processing this a little bit when I was on my way here, and I was processing thinking about you. I was thinking about Coach Good, and I asked myself, when they were coaching me, how much of it was about them, how much of it was about the players. And I can't really recall too much, like really any time where it was about them. Like, it was always around the players. And I think it's a challenge now, because you got younger coaches coming up into the ranks and whatnot, and younger coaches, whether it's prideful, whether they didn't play as much as they wanted to play, they didn't get the most out of their experience or whatnot, they want to have some control. I think that poses a challenge for individuals who, when I came into it, I made sure that I didn't have any ounce of wanting to play any sports ever again in me, because at least to the level of that, just because I didn't want to make it about me, then make it about you. Like, it had to be completely about that athlete. And I think a lot of times I tell players, I'm pro athlete. That doesn't mean that you have to be at a certain, rank for me to, work with you. It just means I'm pro whatever works for you. I'm about being effective. And sometimes you need players who, back in the day when we were growing up, it was you ran track, you played basketball, you play all of these things.
Right.
Nowadays, the reality is it's a little bit tougher to do all of those things because it takes up so much time, takes up so much energy. The recruiting world is crazy right now. I don't know how you ever recover from that. And so I think it comes down to, it has to be the right relationship of the person that you're working with. It has to be a mutual understanding that when we work with these athletes, first of all, I don't have any athletes.
You don't.
I don't. They're not my athletes.
Okay.
There's players who, and I work with them.
Okay.
But I don't like to say they're my athletes, right?
Okay.
Because I don't own you. You're just a player that I'm a resource to. And I think a lot of times you get coaches that are young. That's my player. This is my player. You're gonna do this and you're gonna do that, and sometimes it don't even make sense for players to follow certain people and they just do it. So it's.
But I guess this is a question. Ain't it like they helping the athlete to help the program though in that way? Like, so if you get like a high school coach that's like, hey, you can't be playing that sport because that's potentially going to mess up what we got going for you over here, which is going to get us to this level.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I can see it from another point of view.
Yeah. So I think it's a balance though. I
Okay.
think it's a balance. So I don't tell players not to do all that they can for the program. That's not. But at the end of the day, we know sports is. The window is so small.
Yeah.
Like, it's so small. And most of these individuals want to play at higher levels. Everybody's not going to play at a higher level, right? But at the same time, they should have the opportunity. If they're going to give all their blood, sweat, all of that to it, they should have an opportunity to play at the next level. And so if I'm a high school coach, like, I don't want to use you to benefit the school, because if you have success in what you do, you're going to benefit the school anyways. When you go to college, that's a benefit to the program.
Yeah.
So I think, and it depends on the situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, not every situation is a one size fit everybody.
Yeah.
So
I had a question too, and you mentioned this. You said you had to wait till your yearning was done to play at a certain level or something like that. But how do you cultivate a dream and not stifle a dream at the same time? Because you said you thought you wanted to go to the NBA. I'm sure there were some coaches that tried their best to build you up, but then there's some that had to give you that reality of it might not happen. So how do you cultivate and not stifle, but find that balance to push, but don't oversell as well?
absolutely. I think, so I will never tell a player what they can do.
What they can't.
What they can do. If a player tells me that they want to play in NFL, NBA, whatever, okay, that's the goal. Let's go for it.
Let's work
At the same time, what you want is based on what you're willing to accomplish, like what you're willing to work.
Put
Like,
in.
if you're not willing to work, then at the same time, like, you can say you want this, it's not gonna get there. So there's a reality attached to, like, if you want this, you got to work like this.
Right.
If you don't want it, you're not gonna work and do whatever you need to do. So, so that's one of the things that I do. I never limit them. Always let them dream big, but then simultaneously, while they're dreaming big, the focus has to be, okay, what are we going to do? How are we transitioning after sports? Like, there has to be some reality to it.
Yeah.
And when I say reality is, there's always life after sports. So we got to know what that looks like and start to push them that way too.
So
The other
question-
key that you left off though too, there's measurables.
Yep.
So if you got a kid
Yeah.
talking about
Okay.
this,
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
measurables. Look, bro, you need to be here.
Absolutely.
This is where they at around the country. This is what they're doing when they go in
Giving
here.
them
So
them
yeah.
set standards to
Yeah.
go about. But I guess I was gonna say, you said that you wanted them to, like, you didn't want to constrict them to not doing this or something like that. You said, but how are you doing that with Traction to get that it's more than sports behind it? Like, what? I guess, can you dial into that?
So I don't think it's different than the way. So I'm not reinventing anything.
Okay.
So, like, what they already did is what I'm doing.
Okay.
Right.
When I came through each program, they were concerned about how I was outside of the basketball
Okay.
court. They were concerned about my life at home. They were concerned about academics. They were concerned about everything. And and at Harding, they had a whole staff. We had Gooden, JJ, Coach Bruce. We had full of an administrator. Like, we had a whole staff. Like,
Okay.
if you weren't doing whatever, it was communicated to everybody.
Okay.
So for me, it's one of those things where, like, when I get a player in, they come in thinking that, oh, I'm just about to train. But I'm going to have a conversation of how are you at home? Do you do chores? How are you academically? Because to JJ's point, measurables sometimes weed you out. It's the same thing with, if you aren't doing certain things outside of the football or outside of training, it's going to weed you out. Like, I'm not interested in training people who just want to be football players.
Okay.
Like, so I think it's a whole process of weeding out.
Yeah, and I think that makes a difference in just many programs, because a lot of programs are just worried about how you are during the season,
Right.
Right.
and when they can use you and when they can get the most out of you. But what happens after that season is over with is what separates a lot of top tier programs to the programs that are just okay or not excelling as well. But I think, with me, I coached AAU basketball with Indy Heat for like the last 4 or 5 years. This was the first year I didn't coach. But when I came into the coaching scene, I just asked myself, or told myself, I need to be the type of coach that I needed when I was in high school. Because when I was in high school, I had a few. I was lazy in the classroom, but when it came to athletics, I went all out, and that's the type of person. I had like Coach Rob Van Landingham. I had Coach Robert McDonald. I had a couple of those guys over at Elmhurst who really checked on me outside of the football field and the basketball court to make sure everything was going on. So I told myself I needed to be like that. So when I coached AAU, I wasn't like, hey, let me call the shots of this, that. I said, let me be the assistant coach, because the head coach makes most of the calls. The assistant coach helps manage relationships and helps manage like attitudes on the bench, everything else. And that's what I was passionate about with working with the kids. So I wanted to, make sure their mental was right. I took a lot of kids to AAU trips that couldn't afford. Their parents was working 2-3 jobs. I just wanted to build that relationship. So I think cultivating those relationships and making sure that they had everything they need was something that I took a lot of pride in when I coached. So.
The one thing that I notice you guys do well is have a great relationship with these young men. They respect you guys. They look up to you guys, man. And
they all taller than me.
They be leaning on you. Let's keep that one real. Man. But they really respect you guys as, I'm going to say, mentors. I ain't going to say dads, because we don't want to disrespect anybody. But as mentors, man, really, how do that, I know you guys, when you guys was coming up, you guys was very respectful, and you had a lot of people around you that was...
Who was respectful? Which one?
I had some instances where I was a little bit...
I was only...
I'm just saying, like...
To him, not you, you.
There was a lot of guys that was off the chain. Really off the chain. And you guys stayed composed because of your dad and making sure that y'all was handling your business. How do we get that back into our community as far as our mentors getting involved and doing the things that we supposed to do to help our community? Because our community needs some major help.
Yeah.
And how do we do that?
That's a question that it's going to take. I think it's simple, but I think it's hard. Yeah. I think that I have this thing where I think that players, parents, they all have to be retrained and re-educated, like all of them. Yeah. And I think that, you don't want to disrespect and go behind the back of a player or a parent talking to a player. You want to kind of have it to where they all are on the same page. So now I meet with players and parents, and I just lay it to them straight. Like, this is what it is. This is how we're going to get to this point. I'm more concerned about X, Y, and Z. But they have to be educated. I think a lot of times we get frustrated and impatient when we see certain people act in a certain way, but it's kind of hard to blame them for being ignorant of certain things. So and we got the generation nowadays. Yeah. I mean, I think I can say it. I'm in the car listening to SOS Band, so I think I'm with y'all. But I think I just think the generations is completely different than what it used to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you took it to where I would have took it, because he talked about the mentors. I was going to ask, how do y'all handle these parent expectations and people that come in? That's what I see, bigger. You guys are the mentors. You got a program. I'm looking at, your staff that you have. But nowadays, you getting, hey, parents that these expectations. I paid my money. We've been out here 7 days a week. Why come my kid ain't doing this? How come he don't get to go to travel? Why he ain't with the A's instead of the B's? And I love what you said. That's what what you spoke to. It is gonna take retraining.
Y'all don't really deal with the parents on that aspect of, because Well, you said you still coach AAU or you don't?
This was my first summer not coaching.
But with the training aspect, it's not so harsh as as the coaches might get it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It is, though.
It's harsher. I mean, the parents. I think the thing is like we got to a point where if you invest the money, you expect a certain return.
Correct.
What they leave out is that the return is not necessarily on the people who are providing the service or providing the resources. The return is on the athlete doing the work to get to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get the bulk of the hate because they put everything on us because they spent the dollar, but they're not realizing, yeah, we have the services, but you got to work the services in order to get out what you need to get out. So, and there's been conversations where we've had with parents. I know I've had with parents where I'm like, yo, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. Like, I'm not, because the money is important. Let's be real about it. Like, you need the money to keep going and have the platform, but it's not worth having to deal with the headache.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think to Tay's point, what she thinking of is y'all get somebody, you say, hey, this kid been thriving, he good, or like you said, I'm not killing nobody's dreams. The kid coming, he working hard for you. Now they come over there to their school team, but they not starting. Hold on, my son been going over there to Traction. Hey,
right.
Dre Muhammad said, hey, this, that, the other. So that's what she's speaking to. But you're right, you gonna get it both ends.
You also got a lot of other things playing in that, like politics is everywhere. So
Well, how about jeans and even before we get to all that, you're right. Those are
there's
factors.
a lot of different factors at play.
Yeah. My kids, you can have two kids start Traction at the same time. It don't mean the end result's going to be the same.
Right.
And
one kid, Jalen Smith's son or daughter, and another kid is, hey, somebody,
Why you look over?
But I'm just saying, hey, different baseline. I say, hey, that's them your people. But hey,
There you go, Jay. You hit it right on the nose.
it's not the same baseline. That's all I'm saying. And these are talks that we have.
Yeah.
You hit on something, man, and I'm glad you brought up because, man, you had a talk way back with it. And then one guy I used to work for, when we was talking about specialization and, wasn't really encouraging guys or discouraging. Yeah. But I like the way you said, really it comes down to the time is the thing that's hindering them. But with that, if somebody, let's say you got a workout and somebody's got, for football and they got a basketball tournament. Now you say you're not discouraging, but when they come back, is there going to be a penalty? Like if y'all got a 7 on 7 that weekend, do they get bumped down? He with the A's, he going to be with the B's, or how does that work?
We don't penalize. So our rule is this. Our rule is school's priority, and we'll work around school. So we often find ourselves every single year changing our schedules because the schools have X, Y, and Z. So we change for that. And then we know the reality of when you go to school, that's important because we need the school just as much as the player needs the school. And what I mean by that is you can train all you want to, and you can look good on social media, but them college coaches going to want to see how does he perform when he goes into this game situation. So we know we need the schools, and so we want to make sure that the players have a chance to do it. And then the one thing I will say real quickly is when we deal with parents and players, we have to redefine what success looks like. So most of the times players think that success is playing at the highest level when that's not the reality of success.
Yeah.
Success for everybody is maximizing their potential, but potential is different. Somebody may be good enough to be a starter on JV. Somebody may be good enough to be a starter in high school. So it's just identifying that at a certain point. Let them dream early, but then as they get closer to reality,
telling them that reality.
we had.
Sometimes reality is hard.
Like I said, I love everything that he said, and that's exactly how you handle it. You not, to Clarence asked, you not crushing nobody's dream, but hey, okay, we're gonna work at it because so many kids, everybody, like he said, my goal is to go to the NBA, my goal is to be in the NFL. But you're not willing to put in the work. What does it take? And that's what Dre said. I'm putting it back on you. Okay, we're going to do that. Now you ready? Do you remember back at Harding? I remember some guys, I didn't go say their name, but they said, man, we want to shoot like you and your brothers, man. What y'all be doing to shoot like that? I said, man, you got to get 1,000 shots up a day. They look at each other. I'm good. So that's what we looking at. And to your point, though, that's what I do. I love that. And I know we only got a couple seconds left or a couple minutes. Because this dude, he'll shut it off real quick. So, but hey, before we turn it over to him to cut it off, tell us who is your biggest athlete, that you've trained or worked with, and tell us who, you in agent business, who's your biggest athlete.
I'll let you.
Well, my athletes currently are preparing, so they're going into their last year of college football, so they'll be preparing for of the 2025 NFL draft. I won't name any names yet because they haven't signed with me yet. But I have 5 or 6 guys that I'm working with right now. A couple of them were down in Florida, a couple at Kansas, Iowa, 2 at Alabama, and Toledo prospect. So trying to get those guys ready for their college season, and then preparing for the NFL draft is what I've been doing the last year or so.
Okay.
For me personally, when I first started, I was blessed to work with the material of Austin Mack. So Austin Mack him and Ben Skoranek were my first 2 guys that I started really working with. And then D. Eskridge, who's with the Seahawks, popped up. And then from there, we've had people like Anthony Torres, who's at Toledo, one of the top tight ends. Recently, Tay Johnson was one of the athletes that I got in 8th grade, who just naturally had the ability. Ended up playing safety. Mylan Graham is one of them. And there's a number of other ones that are coming up that are do really well too, that you'll hear about this upcoming season.
And it's crazy because we had Tay at the same time. So he had Tay for football and I had Tay in basketball, and Tay he's a special kid, but they all are. Mylan is special in his own sense, but just having those guys around and seeing the younger kids, see them go through the process, the recruiting process and everything else, it just gives a lot of kids hope to reach their maximum potential.
Real quick, you got a young man down there that last year he was down there. You heard one word from him.
Wow. And
this year you get to have a conversation with him. And he, we talked about him, and he just. You can see the
transformation.
Thank you. It's just a difference, and your program work. Continue to do the things that you're doing because it's making a difference in our youth, in our community. We have one more question from me, and then I'll go around the room. How do we get it back into our community? You guys are using our kids, taking our kids and working with them. But how do we get it back into our community? Because we need it in our community just as well.
Well, I can say the athletes in the community have increased their activity into Traction, but also at the same time, you hear all the time Traction is super expensive, and it's not. A lot of them got J's on, and you know that whole story.
What's expensive, man?
You can train for $100 a month.
Oh, okay.
That ain't expensive, is it?
No,
you go 12 days
Some
a
people
month.
get J's every other week.
When you say
there you go,
$100 a month, we come in every day, 7 days a week, 5 days a week.
That's
2
the
hours a day.
$200.
See, that's what I'm saying. You gotta be real clear when you talk about these numbers.
But it's for what you are provided. $7 a session is not really not that crazy. But to answer that question, I think that to get it back in the community, it's going to take people that are bold enough to go into the community. I think a lot of trainers and a lot of coaches that are in this, and it's not everybody, but you can identify who they are.
Yeah.
The whole objective is to take the ones that are the best, take them out of the community, take them elsewhere, and then let them benefit whatever, and then you get the accolades and stuff like that. I think that one of the things that I did, and I wasn't successful at doing it, to be quite honest, is that before Traction even started, I went to multiple black trainers, multiple ones, and I'm like, yo, this is about to happen. I would love to work with you. How can we make this work? And then they turned around, and everything sounded great. They turned around, and they joined another organization, which is cool, not an issue. But I think it's going to take people who just aren't going to talk about it, but actually are going to actually want to do it. And I think too many of our people are scared of our people. So, they don't want to go into our communities. They don't want to help our communities. But I think that's a big deal of doing it. And then one of the things that we're doing as an organization is we're taking our athletes, and we're going to the Metro games. We're going to these things so they can see, I don't want nothing from you. I just want to know that we support what you do, because I mean Metro gets a lot of bad rep, but Metro's been in existence for a long time, and I don't care what people say about Metro. Metro has produced a lot of people that have benefited from Metro.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's being able to go back into that and then talk about, and no matter, the conversations are going to be hard, right?
Yeah,
but you got to have those conversations. But I think it's going towards where our people are and really trying to help them out as much as possible.
Yeah, and although I'm not doing the training piece, I think one thing, I always told myself, because just like Dre, I wanted to be a professional, some kind of professional athlete. As you can see, my stature, I don't have those measurables, but I had a lot of heart growing up, and I was very competitive. But like I said, I applied it to, school and life, and I always told myself, if I don't become a professional athlete, I'm gonna work in professional sports using, my mind and my intelligence, and my law degree. But one thing with the individuals I work with, such as Javon Barnes and Roosevelt Barnes, one thing we always talk about is, staying in the community. Like, although they're not professional athletes, the kids need to see somebody that looks like them doing something big.
Right.
I'm in front of Judge Lori Morgan. She's the first black judge in the family court, first female black judge. So just being able to see individuals at these high levels and high positions stay within the community, not go to Atlanta, not go to, different big cities to try to make it, just to stay here and do it big and show the kids that, like, this individual is doing something. Like, you could do something outside of being a professional athlete if you really tap into your resources. I think that's what stuck with me, and that's the reason why I'm still here and try to harp on the children about doing something big. So,
real quick, Dre, tell people where Traction is, how they can join Traction, where they can come out, or how they can get into your program. And DeMarcus, if there's an athlete out there that's looking for representation, let them know where you are as well.
So Traction is located at 216 Marcial Drive, Fort Wayne, Indiana, 46825, right by Speedway. And if you want to get involved, you can just follow me at Dre_Muhammad on Instagram, Twitter, or you can follow Traction Athletic Performance, which is TractionAP on Instagram and Twitter as well.
All right. And I'm still here in Fort Wayne. My Instagram is Coach, COACH _ESQ, Coach Esquire. On Instagram, I do have quite a few athletes who have reached out to me on social media platforms in regards to representation. So that's how I could be found as well.
All right. How did y'all come up with this Traction logo, man? Did you make that up?
I didn't come up with it.
Okay.
That's not my specialty. Logo design is not my thing.
Okay.
So we A-Dub, who does a phenomenal job of websites and logo designs, he came up with the Traction logo, and first shot, we just ran with it.
Nice, man. Nice.
Brad Gumbo, take us out of here.
Well, I'm just gonna say this. Coming in the future, ONV coming to your community, we're gonna really be looking for you guys to come and be a part of what we're gonna be bringing to our community, so we could be a collaboration as one. I just want to say to the audience, continue to watch us, continue to support what we're doing. We're bringing positive young people onto the show to give you information to utilize it to help your youth, your child, or even yourself, So I always say, may God bless you, and may God continue to give you dreams.